Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome to the channel, and I am here for a discussion video for you guys. Now for this discussion video, this is actually a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a bit now, so figured why not talk about it now. So for this discussion video, I want to talk about, I guess, when bands kind of change their sound, because they're, when it comes to certain fan bases, it does seem like you really can't please everyone. And that's really how it is with a lot of artists out there. Um, there's even some bands out there where some people complain that they don't change enough. And then there's people out there that say that they've changed too much. And I want to talk about that healthy balance that's in between where, some bands don't change for the worse, but also don't remain so samey. You know what I'm saying? Now, some bands that come to mind immediately when I think of bands that are samey are AC/DC, Breaking Benjamin, and August Burns Red. These are definitely some bands that immediately come to mind when I think of bands that are very samey and don't really step outside of the box all that much. Bands that just really don't have a lot of variety to them. You know what I mean? So, yeah, those are definitely some bands that come to mind, some bands that I can think of. And I know that some people might say that Breaking Benjamin has tried different things like, they've tried to, go heavier with albums like Ember, you know what I'm saying? But even Ember still sounds like, your typical Breaking Benjamin album. It's not a complete stretch away from their sound, which, I don't think anyone would want, but it's a little too, familiar, I think. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting at with that. But yeah, those are just some bands that I think can really mix things up more. You know what I'm saying? And then there's bands that I think have really changed for the worst. Some bands that come to mind are Linkin Park. Linkin Park is definitely a band that comes to mind. I mean, in my opinion, Linkin Park has really only had 3 good albums, and that's of course the first 3. Now, The Hunting Party I thought was okay, but I don't know. I feel like that album the production is just a little loud for me, I guess, And the style itself, I'm just not that big of a fan of. It's kind of emo sounding. I know that's a rather unpopular opinion to not really like The Hunting Party, because I know that there are people that do like that album. And I never said it was a bad album, I just said, it's just an okay album, it's, an album that most people can get through, But yeah, Linkin Park, their earlier stuff is definitely their best. And this is definitely a band that's kind of went downhill, I know a lot of people saw that even with albums like A Thousand Suns. Now, I don't mind A Thousand Suns. There's a few songs on there that I do like, but yeah, I can definitely see where people are coming from when they say that that's really where they started to have their downfall. You know what I mean? Because, well, it's definitely a complete stretch away from their sound. And I think that's a bad example on changing for the worst is, not just not sounding like the same bands as before, but doing completely different sounding music and not doing what made these bands good in the first place. Linkin Park is a band that was known for their nu metal stuff, albums like Hybrid Theory, Meteora. I mean, I can go on and on about that, and the change was definitely for the worst. And I think a lot of people especially saw this with albums like One More Light, their very last studio album, of course the last album with Chester before he passed away, of course, may he rest in peace. But I mean, there's no other way around it. This is definitely their worst album, One More Light, that is. This is the album where they really tried to go mainstream pop and really just trying to gain that commercial appeal. And yeah, a lot of people were just not having it with that album. I remember the backlash, with that album around when that album came out a few years ago. And yeah, definitely their weakest album. It's also too short of an album, 10 tracks and, very poppy. Now, there's a few songs on there that I think are okay, but I don't know. Just not a very tolerable album, in my opinion, that's all. So yeah, Linkin Park is definitely a band that I can think of as far as a band that's kind of changed their sound for the worst. Another band that immediately comes to mind is, well, you guessed it, In Flames. Yep. Now, In Flames, believe it or not, I actually know some In Flames fans that say that they do like their newer stuff more than their older stuff. And obviously, this is coming from people who like that style of music, that like that alternative hard rock style of music. But I'll get more into that. Now, In Flames is definitely a band that's changed for the worst. You can ask 85, if not 90% of the fan base. They would say that In Flames' older stuff is much, much better. I mean, the newer stuff, it just doesn't even compare. It really doesn't. And I think a lot of people that maybe even do prefer In Flames' newer material may ask why, there's a lot of hatred and a lot of dismissive attitudes towards the most recent In Flames albums. And the reason for that is because they are now a completely different genre, and I think that this is where the change for the worse comes in. Like, they're not even a melodeath band anymore. Like, they're more alternative metal, hard rock, trying to sound similar to bands like Breaking Benjamin and Red and bands of that variety. So that's why a lot of people have a problem with In Flames' newer material. And it's not because people don't like alternative metal or even hard rock. It's just that's not what In Flames is. And that's what a lot of people have a problem with, And I know some people might say, well, what's wrong with In Flames' newer stuff? They can create alternative metal. Actually, no, they can't. I mean, if I wanted to listen to this style of music, I would just go listen to Breaking Benjamin or something, And that would be my message to anyone who doesn't see a problem with In Flames' newer material, is if you want this style of music, then maybe In Flames is not the band for you. I know that this is the band that In Flames is now. I do get that. But if you want to listen to In Flames, go to the melodeath stuff. Their newer stuff is not going to cut it, and it's not going to label you as an In Flames fan. I hate to say it, but it's true. So yeah, if you want this style of music, just go to bands like Red, or Breaking Benjamin, or 3 Days Grace, or Shinedown. You know what I mean? There's bands that have done this and done this type of music better, In Flames doesn't even do hard rock, alternative metal that good anyway, and Anders Frieden, not to mention, doesn't even have that good of a clean singing voice. I don't understand the people that say that he does, because I just don't see it, He's better at, the growls, especially he did back in the early In Flames albums. But that's my take on it. But yeah, In Flames is definitely a band I can think of that's changed their sound for the worst. Now, I will say one thing about In Flames' newer stuff. There's a few songs on albums like I the Mask and even Battles that I think are okay, but they are not on the same levels as The Jester Race or Colony or Lunar Strain or anything like that, No way. So, a lot of people do have a problem with In Flames' newer material because, well, of course it's a complete stretch away from, what made them good in the first place, of course, And I think that's where the change for the worse comes in. Once again, it's mainly based around the fact that these bands don't even sound like the same band anymore. Like, you listen to the most recent In Flames material, it doesn't even sound like it's from the same band that put out The Jester Race, you know what I mean? So that's why a lot of people have a problem. Now, I want to talk about that healthy balance, that in-between spot where, some bands don't completely stray away from what made them good in the first place, but, mix things up a little bit. One example, one band that I can think of immediately when I think of a good example of that healthy balance is Trivium. Trivium is a great band, of course, and they're one of those bands where, not every album sounds the same. You listen to Ember to Inferno and The Sin and the Sentence, and it's like, now some people might argue that, even comparing those albums, they don't even sound like they're from the same band. But some people might actually beg to differ with that, I think the thing is they still, to a degree, sound like the same band, as far as the clean vocals go, and maybe even the harsh vocals to an extent. They just mix things up a little bit. but just enough to where it's satisfying. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm getting at with that. I think another healthy balance would be the band Demon Hunter. Now, the reason I say Demon Hunter is because, well, their latest album, Peace, is definitely a lot different compared to anything that the band has done before. It's a very soft album. It's more of a hard rock album opposed to a heavy metal album, like a lot of their other stuff is. So, yeah. And Peace, well, some people might argue that that's a complete, bad change. Now, I will agree that some of Demon Hunter's worst songs are definitely on the Peace album, for sure. I mean, the song Two Ways and even the song Bet My Life are just atrocious songs, and the breakdowns are maybe some of the worst breakdowns I've ever heard in metalcore or hard rock, whatever, the style of music. So yeah, even though that is the case, the album Peace does have some songs that I do enjoy, though, like Loneliness. I love Loneliness. It's really grown on me a lot. It's a really good song. And Recuse Myself is another song I really like from the Peace album. And that song in particular is very different compared to anything Demon Hunter has done before. And that's a song that's really gained, well, not a whole lot of success, because Demon Hunter is not really the biggest band, but from what I have seen, a lot of people do like that song. And I think it's because it really works for them. And I think one of the things that make Demon Hunter who they are is the vocals. I mean, Ryan Clark, he is really one of the main, he's really the thing that makes Demon Hunter, you know what I'm saying? So that's definitely something that I can think of as well. Now, like I said, I don't think Peace is their strongest album by any means. It's nowhere near one of Demon Hunter's best, but there's a few good songs on it, and some songs that are just kind of meh, but even the songs on the Peace album, I can't really say are a complete, stray away from Demon Hunter's earlier sound, because a lot of the songs on that album could, pass as ballads on, albums that came before, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's why a lot of people don't have a problem with that type of change, because it's not like Demon Hunter hasn't done these type of songs before, ballad, hard rock like songs, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's definitely another example that I can think of. There's many other bands that I can think of. Even bands like Rush. Now, I know some people might look at me and think, well, you complain about bands that are samey, but look at you, who's a Rush fan, where, every album sounds the exact same. Well, I don't know where you're coming from with that. It's pretty clear that you either have an ignorance towards progressive rock or classic rock in general, because I don't understand where people are coming from when they say all Rush albums sound the exact same and all classic rock sounds the exact same. And these are people that claim to be music fans. Absolutely ridiculous. But not all Rush albums do sound the same, I think, in recent time, the later Rush albums, the band has kind of taken a heavier approach. Now, maybe that's just due to the fact that they were trying to get more with the times, maybe, like especially their albums in the 2000s. I mean, they took a heavier approach to their music, sort of like progressive rock mixed in with hard rock, you know what I mean? So that's another healthy balance I can think of, like Rush still sounds like the same band, but they just, mix things up a little bit, but just enough so that it's, listenable and actually still really good to an extent. So there you go, guys. That is my discussion video, and I wanted to talk about this for a while, talk about that healthy balance, and talk about both sides when bands don't change enough, and when bands change too much. And even that bird outside agrees with me, if you can hear it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree that a lot that I said in this video? So let me know what you guys think. What are some examples that you can think of when bands don't change enough, or where they change too much and change for the worst? And what are some bands that, you're kind of happy with that in-between spot? Let me know your thoughts. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Have a nice day and take care.